Yo, collective, what's going on? It's Ron. It's Tuesday, the 22nd of July. So I had some minor malfunctions yesterday. I didn't get to actually post a reading. And to be frank, I was interrupted midway. But it was for a good cause, kind of. It's the first long conversation I've had with a human being who wasn't trying to sell me meth. So, with that being said, you know, it was worthwhile. And I just, I failed to come through. It got dark and everything else, so. But we're going to try to make up for it today, so we're going to get right into the energy. And I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. And if you haven't heard this Sunday forecast, then I've already posted that on the page as well. So give me your support, if you would please, considering subscribing and so on. I'm a new site, so I have to kind of, you know, get this word out there and so on, just to, you know, give it the hope of possibly growing at some point. And I thank you for whatever help and assistance I can get, or lack thereof. I thank you for even considering it. All right, so with the energy that we pulled out so far in terms of the overall energy for the week, it's actually of two different runes, or actually a rune and a tarot card. Remember, I started something new this Sunday. I'm implementing the tarot cards, past, present, and futures, for not only the week as a whole, but also daily as a whole. And to mix that with the full picture that's created with the runes themselves and the oracle cards. I'm really just trying to give you the most complete, compact energy that is available, that I'm able to pick up in those three different radar systems, so to speak. I hope I'm not, I hope I make sense. Anyways, so Iwas, what it means is the yew tree. It means both death and rebirth. So yes, it could be the physical death, but as the rebirth implies, it could also be the rebirth or the death of a cycle, or perhaps overcoming a potential habit or an addiction or something of that nature, or actually simply in some way graduating over something that has basically held you back in previous cycles. Okay, so it also stands for protection and quest, strength, reliability, dependability, and trustworthiness, a sense of being more enlightened. It's an evolution of both. Your body becomes less, I think, physical with time, more light back as we progress. Just hypothesizing. It makes sense to me. And because we're evolving at the same time, not just physically and on a timeline, but spiritually as well, and what that means. In other words, there's a rank structure basically considering, you know, the other world, so to speak. It's where we get the models for this world in many ways. And that's also reflected very much so within the Gnostic text as well, as, again, reflecting on the esoteric that I can recall, and you know, maybe even occultic and things like that. I try to look at everything as a whole, the best that I'm able. Okay. All right, so not to digress too much as I do, but Iwas is the overall energy. Now, yesterday's energy was Nauthis, and it's also the pre-pull for today, Tuesday. So Monday and Tuesday was the same energy, two different runes. And what Nauthis stands for is basically, I always say it's the yin and yang rune, because it lays out, yes, a bunch of negativities and, you know, like obstacles, necessities, constraints, the need of patience, conflict, and the overcoming of conflict. This is where I get the yin and yang, you know. And basically it just tells us that, you know, anytime that there's an obstacle of some sort, there's a lesson to be found. Once you've overcome that lesson, it becomes easier each and every time that you face something similar, you know, later on. It's like developing a scar, in a sense, within your spirit as well as your physical body. Okay? All right, so that's Nauthis, and that's, again, yesterday's and today's overall energy. And Sunday, the energy itself was Yera. Now, Yera is basically like the fruits of your labor finally being realized, okay? Whatever the fruits of whatever endeavor that you put forward were. And it may even surprise you when it happens, okay? But this is why the surprise is coming. You're getting the fruits of that earlier there. All right, and the overall energy, which is very similar to the overall energy of the room, but this time with the Terra, is the Empress. And that talks about things of the material world as well. Both, of course, the flora and the fauna. She's like Mother Nature herself in many ways. The animals love her, and everything flourishes around her and so on. So birth, as well, physical birth, as well as the birthing of a great idea. Women are the femininity is the creative side of us for the most part. And a lot of the masculinity is the driving force in some cases that can be utilized when you're balanced. Okay? You put those two things together, you can produce more than somebody who's just simply creative or somebody who's simply just passionate. You combine these things. This is the necessity of, again, balancing everything out. All right, so the Empress also means material wealth and luxury. Again, fertility, creativity, and abundance. Awesome, awesome stuff, right? All right, so with that being said, I'll go ahead and start with the tarot. Let's go ahead and pull a tarot for past, present, and future. We already saw what the overall energy is for the week. So past is the past today, present, or actually the past will be any time that it decides to be. So it could be just for the past of today, just like the future may be at the end of this week, but it may be beyond that, okay? So the future can be, a second from now, technically. So, you know what I mean? The timeline is different for every single person out there, as we talked about in the past. So what is the overall energy for my collective? Right now we're looking for the past, please. The past energy. What is it you would like to convey to us concerning the past energy? What does my collective need to hear and see, please and thank you. Alright. Good. Together. And alright. Card we pull for the past. Yeah, that's pretty close for me. Nine of Swords. Nine of Swords energy. Well, this, basically feeling overwhelmed by fears. Nightmares, anxiety, self-doubt, guilt, probably not sleeping well, and so on with those nightmares. And that would tell you basically that you were going through it at some point, whether you're doing it openly or others are there to help you, or you're doing it basically secretly because you don't want others to have to bear the brunt of what you're going through. You tried to deal with it alone. You felt those things, whoever you are. All right. Now at the bottom, what we have is the Two of Pentacles. Now, the Two of Pentacles talks about finding balance, and I keep talking about the importance of balance. Everything in this particular reality points to that in order, again, for us to get out of here. We cannot deny God is the creator of both good and bad. I mean, he even says that in the Bible. I wish I could give you chapter and verse right now, but I don't have my notes with me. And I wasn't born like Nikola Tesla with an eidetic memory where I could see not only in terms of everything I've ever read and everything else, but I could project that out in such a way I can design an entire motor in my mind from the very beginning of what powers it, how that power works, to the mechanisms that are actually part of his motor. He was an amazing, very rare type of a thinking individual, which far exceeded people like Einstein, by Einstein's own admission. So, an eidetic memory it's amazing. It's something I would wish for. Because I've read a tremendous amount of resources, but my memory or my ability to, pull it upon recall, sometimes maybe I should pray for that individually too. Because, like I said, I've absorbed a lot of information. but I don't have it when I need it a lot of the time. So, I mean, I always find other ways of improvising and adapting and overcoming, and I typically do that by keeping good notes and things like that. But in this situation, I just don't have quite that access right now. So, and it's all good. You know, what's meant to be will be, and it'll probably save you from listening to me rambling on too terribly. I had a joint some time ago with a friend. One of the things I've learned in my particular predicament was that the people, you don't ever judge a book by its cover. I'll just leave it at that. Never judge a book by its cover. All right, so at the bottom we have the Hierophant, Major Arcana. The Hierophant, again, is one that's more of a religious mindset, you know, keeps rules, things like that, and order in a society or a group, usually of a religious institution of some type. Okay, but it talks about tradition as well, morality, groupthink, religion, and institutions. And again, I am not religious. I'm deep. In fact, I think Jesus Christ is a perfect example of somebody who was not religious. He was spiritual. And the only time you ever saw him angry is when he was dealing with the religious hypocrites of his day, the scribes and the Pharisees. He even told them, how are any of you going to escape damnation? It's how far he went with this disdain for a lot of what they were doing. They were actually the synagogue of Satan in many ways, and he even said that before he was turning over all the money exchange tables in the church and all that kind of stuff. So his church was wherever he was gathered with two or more, and he even wrote that in his book as well. He had church outside in nature a lot of the time. He went to the various churches, which you could call Gnostic at that time, because Christ was still walking, wasn't he? So there was no Christianity per se, but there was the ancient Judaism that had been split up. Some were basically Gnostic in their belief. And again, I think we should look at all evidence from all sides. That's why, even though I choose to follow the light, I've looked into the dark. I'm not afraid of the dark. The dark needs to be afraid of me. So that's the way I feel about it, because I know who I work for. You know what I'm saying? And if you're a soldier in this battle too, and you've thought it through, and you've gone through your trials, tribulations, and you could say spiritual boot camp, then you're going to come out a badass too. So, and you don't have to have an ego to feel that way. You're just proud that you got through something. Like just being a Marine means always being a Marine. We are proud because of what we went through, and how, for the most part, it was generally more difficult with a lot of tests to get to the other side of that, to be given those titles. So, you know, that's why Marines are something of a different breed militarily. But that's not to take away from the Army, Navy, Air Force, or especially the Special Operations Group that work within all of them. Well, we're a department of the Navy, just like the Navy SEALs are, and, you know, many other organizations that probably come from that as well now. But the Marine Corps is the men's department, as I like to say. Of course, you know, we can compare notes with the Navy SEALs, of course. Everybody knows about them, and they are exceptionally well trained and a great group of guys. In fact, we always, every time I deployed my ship, we always had the SEALs with us on the LPDs. And I know at least 2 of the 3, you know, West Pacific 6-month-long cruises that I went in, where I got to see the world and train with their military and so on. Most of the time, I became friends with the SEALs, who always berthed right below us, wherever our berthing compartment was, where they basically have us sleep and, you know, all that kind of stuff. They were always right there next to us, somehow, some way. And it was a Navy SEAL actually was teaching me how to play the guitar. And I guess he was the equivalent of a sergeant, a corporal or a sergeant in the Navy. So he was an E4 or an E5, and I was the same in the Marine Corps. And his lieutenant actually would play along with us too, and they had some really nice guitars. So, I mean, I developed a friendship. I even worked out with them and so on. And it's not to brag or anything like that, but I was in excellent shape until after Desert Storm. So that's a whole nother story. But anyway, so at the top we get a major arcana, the Fool, and that's good. The Fool is basically like the explorer. You're off to start off into a new cycle here in Leo season, which starts today. Happy birthday, Leos. If you're a Leo, this is your time to shine, baby doll. And I've married twice, and one of them was a Leo, and they are indeed very fiery. So mine just happened to be many other things as well. And that's a whole nother story to be shared very soon, hopefully. But anyways, what this means is the start of something new. Okay, like I was saying, new beginnings, a sense of wonder and optimism, adventure, and a sense of innocence, childlike innocence that God wants us all to have here. You know, again, biblically speaking, that's what he says. We're not here to be in drudgery or to work all our lives to the point of not being able to do anything else when we are at a point where we can finally be free of it. You know, a lot of people never even make it till retirement age, and when they do, they're so broken they can't, you know, really enjoy it. And most people, at best, we're middle class at best, with a few exceptions. So you're not even going to have the money you really thought you did by saving up in an era where everything is escalated thousands of percentages in terms of the lack of meaning of wealth today. In other words, the dollar has been so depreciated, and we have been put deliberately in debt without having any real representation of the money that they extort from us. And they put all that debt on you and I. I'll talk about that. I've already made a song about that. I'll make videos about that later. But I'll prove to you, this whole system is an illusion, and it's not constitutional. It's illegal. It's wrong. It's immoral. It's ran by a mafia, literally, and they're literally parasites. They are being ran, if you will, by a parasitical order. You call them demons, archons, jinn. The evil, the darker side of things occupy those, bodies. They look like you and I, but they're occupied at the core by something that's not at all like you and I. So we all have the free will to decide what we decide to go, you know, very, very similar to the way it was represented in, the Star Wars sagas. So, of course, they get a lot of that from, I would say, a mixture of Hinduism and more of a New Agey type of a look at things, but a lot of Hinduism is expressed in that. But within Hinduism, you can still see a lot of Christianity as well. Instead of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, of course, they have a pantheon of gods. And their creation story is a little more complex, actually. But then again, most Christians have never seen it from the Gnostic point of view, so they only have a very singular perspective of everything. And it's not talking bad about them. I am you. I took it to many more levels. And the reason I say that is because you really do have to fight through this fear of religious dogma. You'll feel like you're going to be damned for reading the Satanic Bible. Or you're going to be damned for reading, some of the more fringe Gnostic texts, which deviate considerably from what standard Christianity is accepting as truth. So, and it's not. It's a genuine search for truth, looking at all the available information, allowing my gut, my heart, my intellect, and my, connection with spirit to discern what the truth actually is. And this, again, the reason why they say it has to be searched for like it would be buried treasure. You're never going to find any. I do so. I put it in practice. The things I talk about, I do. I don't just talk about it. All right. So, King of Pentacles is the next card, and that is our present energy. Now, the King of Pentacles is achieving success and or of long-term goals, and success in general, wealth in general, prosperity, dedication, and stability. Exactly what the Empress card also refers to. So that is our present energy. At the very bottom, we have, again, the Hierophant, as I was pointing out what it meant. Okay? All right, so the next one is for the future. Future, please. What is the future for today for my collective? And by today, I'm talking about from the time that you actually witness this, whenever that might be. You can see this tomorrow, it would apply tomorrow. Okay? And so on and so forth. I mean, that's how this whole thing works in terms of timelines. It's going to be different for each and every person who watches this. Remember, there are, and provably through our quantum physics understanding today, parallel realities that are happening, maybe even in the number of infinity, all around us simultaneously. As hard as that is to grasp. So when you think about it, what is it that fills up the majority of everything that we see, every mental image that we see? Every mental image that we can see in any type of, format, inside a house, at a business, outside in nature, it doesn't matter. It's not the trees or the grass or the endless desert or mountains that we see, but it's the nothingness that makes the canvas to allow those things to exist. Okay? That is the greatest thing of all, and that is, if you will, where we find balance. That's where we find God. To realize that there is more that we cannot see, in other words, than there is that we can see. It helps us to understand that concept to some degree while living in a three-dimensional perspective. I know it seems a little bit out there, but that's what pot does to my mind. If you don't want to talk deeply to me, make sure you keep the joints away, because I love talking about things other than, how was your day and all this stuff that means very little to anybody, really. I mean, those things are important if it's genuine, of course, but usually it's just a way to get over the discomfort of interacting with people. Just trying to get something rolling. I'd rather talk about the things that are of interest to you. See if there's any interest in it for me. Share ideas on it, That's the way I am about things. Sometimes you get really deep in the hole. Sometimes I just sit there and I listen. Because I'm always absorbing. I'm always learning. That's who I am. And that's the fact. Jack. Now, future energy. Future energy. What do we got there? Future energy is another major arcana. Damn. Okay, this is the Star. This is an awesome card to have for our future. It means a very positive and hopeful outlook for the future, like you would imagine for the Star. Or it could be you're going to be a star somehow, some way, like being out there, put out there in the limelight kind of a thing. That's why we call them stars. They're the biggest thing out there that we can see from here. Contentment, hope, healing, renewal, inspiration. Sounds pretty awesome to me. At the bottom we have the King of Cups. All right, so at the very bottom is also very positive. Rationality and emotional balance. There's that balance again. Feeling of calm, faithful, friendly, mature, wise, caring. Now remember, to be the Empress, you have to embody all four queens. Well, to be the Emperor, you have to embody all the attributes of all four kings. All four kings represent one of the elements: earth, water, fire, and air, right? So it's ingenious very, very, what the person who came up with the tarot cards, presumably around the 1700s, basically had a very deep knowledge of the occult. Okay, and it's written in the Tree of Life, in the Kabbalah. You see all of these types of things reflected in these tarot cards. So that's what it touches on. The occult simply means the hidden. It doesn't mean anything deep, dark. It can be, because some of the things that are hidden deal with the darker, lower vibrating elements of reality, creation, if you will. So, but there's also the light. Remember, energy is energy. It just takes different forms. You can make them form something very evil, or I guess selfish, egomania. Narcissism is really what evil is in a lot of ways, and the lack of absolute empathy or even concern on any level for anything other than yourself. That's what I mean by the narcissism and so on. Whereas the light looks after all of creation. Unfortunately, the dark always has a tendency to push well beyond its boundaries, and the light allows it to some degree, and it has to push back, at some point, put everything back into balance. Ron Philosophy 101. Now moving on. There goes the tarot for the day. Very awesome indeed. Alright, so let's go ahead and pull us some runes and see how they reflect in that energy for the actual day. I've already done my invocations, prayers, and so on. So it's good to be off of that 3 day and 5-6 hour friggin' fast. Yeah, so I wasn't eating much before, so I was really, really hungry after that, trust me. Yeah, present energy, please, and thank you, Mighty Odin. Thank you. All right, for the present energy, we have Ansus in reverse. This is Odin's mighty rune, but being in the reverse, we get the negative, typically anyways, aspects of that rune. And that talks about things like greed and loss, money problems, poverty, failure, a sense of feeling need. All those types of things are, well, actually, for Ansus, forgive me, I was thinking Fehu. For Ansus, what it actually means is trickery, interference, deception, delusion, and manipulation. Okay, so that's the present energy. Now, some of you may be dealing with somebody in your life who we have been picking up for the last 3 weeks. A lot of it seems to be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, this person who's hiding a third party, who's come back from, your past, if you will. Whatever format that may be. It could be a sibling, it could be a parent, a grandparent, a friend, a co-worker, as well as an ex, right? So, but they're coming back, and they're described again and again as basically a wolf in sheep's clothing. So we've been given a lot of warnings about that over the last 3 weeks. I can't think what this could mean otherwise. It could mean a business screwing you over as well. So, especially in terms of getting the Hierophant, in terms of some of our potential negative energy. All right. Well, I mean, the top and the bottom of the deck, tarot. Hierophant is not a terrible card, but it can, like I said, represent an institution. All right, so the next one, please. Let's go ahead and look at some of the influences today. Let's get some influences. Why are we looking at Ansus in reverse? What are the influences? And thank you. Influences, please. Thank you. Well, Thurisaz in reverse is his almighty Odin's son, Thor, but it's in reverse. So and this is one of the most powerful runes in the runic bag, deck, family, group, it. You can call it many different things probably, without being disrespectful. So what does Thurisaz in reverse actually represent? Well, unfortunate means stubbornness, foolhardiness, betrayal, danger, evil, defenselessness, things such as rape, lust. It's pretty bad, pretty bad actually. It's the opposite of who Thor is in the upright. So, wow, two pretty negative energies to go with two very positive overall energies. Okay, so when I say overall, we're talking about throughout the week. That's the overall energy. So no matter how bad any single moment is, overall it's good. Let's get another influence too, please. Another influence, please. What else is influencing us for the day, please, and thank you. Okay. Wow, this is a good one. See, this balances everything out. This is the god Tyre's rune. Looks like an arrow. I guess it could be also associated to Charon or Sagittarius as well, because the symbolism involved with it. But this is actually a Tyre's rune, and he's the one that is basically overseeing as well the entire third group, or family of runes. And he is the great sky god in charge of justice, righteousness, and fairness. What that rune means is discipline, duty, responsibility, justice, being a warrior, and then getting victory. It tells us not only what the problem is in terms of the negative energy, which we cannot see, but often manifests in ways that are tangible if we look, and how to overcome those things. So we have everything that we have, both, it's like the Hegelian dialectic. We have the problem, we have, well, basically our reaction, and the solution to that particular scenario. That's what Hegelian dialectics is. Dialectics basically is, studying a subject using a already, if you will, a left and a right belief, if you will, or a difference of opinion to coming to a conclusion. It's debate of what the facts are and so on, in a discussion of any kind. The thing about the dialectic version is that, or Hegelian version of that is making controlled extremes, controlled left and right, artificial extremes that are created to bring people in the middle, to control them, okay? So they've inverted a basic law of logic into some kind of control. That's what Hegelian dialectics actually does, okay? And I talk about it quite a bit throughout these conspiratorial journeys, and also the solutions. Now, future energy, please. What is the future energy? We have the counterbalance, the yin and yang for our influences. So that makes more sense now to have a present energy that's negative than an overall energy that's so positive. Get us the present energy, please. Present energy, and thank you. All right, another awesome one. This is Algis. Algis is the one I always talk about, or Winston Churchill in the 1930s made it so popular by giving us the peace sign. The Nazis basically utilized many of these symbols as well. But, Algis is a powerful rune of protection, generally speaking. What it means is, again, protection, defense, friendship, soul, and a sense of being a guardian, feeling the need to guard or protect others as well, or to guard something, okay? So you're guarding basically your purity, you're guarding your soul, you're guarding your energy while we're here. And we do that by finding the balance in all of things. so that we have to give to receive. There has to be reciprocity as well. That's a law. So, we basically interact sometimes with beings that are deliberately set out there, almost like a video game, that are there to absorb our energy. Some far more than others, like the Matrix talks about, as far as you being a battery and all. Some of these people are literal archons, demons, and jinn, and whatever other negative entity you want to give them, Nagos, or whatever you want to call them, from whatever cultural belief system that represents the thing that actually lives off of you, feeds off of your energy if you allow it to, if you vibrate low enough. If you operate in fear or in lack, or like many of the people I'm dealing with right now, a sense of narcissism, supremacy, vanity, ego, hubris, jealousy. I mean, all the 7 deadly sins and far more, actually. Prejudice, racism. I mean, if you're dealing and wallowing in all that kind of stuff, well, you're the ones who are rife to be basically devoured, which causes you to go out there and devour from others in this reality. Again, this is maybe where the Darwinian process comes from, perhaps. It makes sense in that regard. To feed off the weaker. But the weak are only blind. They're not weak at all. Once they awaken, they're far more powerful than any of you. You can no longer take our energy. We give where we desire to give. You're simply takers. So we learn, and then we stop giving so much. We start reserving our energy for our own desires, our own ends, needs, our own, sense of what's important in this world, and not have somebody else tell us where we're supposed to give that energy. No, that's a form of vampirism in and of itself, finely disguised. All right, you guys, so we got some awesome energy. Let's finish off with a, didn't I pull a future energy? Yeah, Algus. All right, well, the future is pretty awesome, like I said. So again, we see how that's all progressing. The balance is taking place. So this is working harmoniously, and I'm very happy with the way things are taking and meshing together. All right, let's go ahead and get a spirit animal. What spirit animals would like to come forward and offer us their wisdom as well? And I give you all the thanks in the world. And I enjoy bringing you into these collective readings. Many out there also empathic, also perhaps filling many of the feminine attributes of the yin and yang, if you will, their creativity, their intuition, and so on, and a bond with nature. If you feel those things, embrace it. And that's what they mean by the feminine side. It's not a negative thing. It's all positive. We have to bring back the divine feminine, and we have to honor the women. Just like they need to really, especially they've been brainwashed the recent years, basically, to not trust or believe much in the men. So the masculine has to step up too. We have to be balanced on both sides. So we have to edify, we have to protect and look after our women. They need to help us, because living life as a team is, well, I mean, it just makes life more livable. It makes it worthwhile in a lot of ways. Not that being alone is bad. I enjoy being alone personally. It helps me in my growth and so on. But if you can be with somebody that can edify you and empower you, then it loves you for you and gives you that, occasional, fine tuning that you need. Metal, sharpens metal kind of a thing. With somebody that's absolutely trustworthy, man, that is something that's worth its weight in gold. It is. But it's so hard to find in our world today, right? Whether you're a man or a woman. I'm not looking to be hooked up with anybody, but I'm certainly not discouraging it either. If I find the right person, I'll be the very best that I can be. And I will edify them and help them to be the best they can be. That's what we're supposed to be here to do. But in the meantime, I'm just working on me. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what it means to love yourself. Love yourself. The more you love on yourself and nurture yourself, build yourself up, empower yourself, the stronger you get, the more your cups are filled, the more you can give to somebody else. That's how love is. And that's why being authentic is 400 times more powerful than love itself is. Because it's love to the next level. Okay? I hope I'm making sense. I know I'm high. That makes sense to me. You know? But I just want to share some of the good that comes from these things. There is nothing wrong with pot, and I get it so little, you know, that I truly enjoy it like anything else that I have put down and learned how to control. When I do get a chance to enjoy it, I truly enjoy it. I don't have sweets almost ever, and when I do, I truly enjoy them. I love my coffee, but I don't drink it every single day. And when I do, I truly enjoy it. You know, I don't have a woman that I love, I hug, I kiss, I'm passionate with, they're passionate with me. I feel energized with them, not just depleted by them. You know, those are things that I relish. I love being able to see the light bulb go off in a child's eyes, to see them smile, to hear that awesome laugh that they have, that belly laugh that just, you know, it's contagious. You know, and the love I feel, and you know, when they're scared and things like that. You know, I try to teach them how to be tough because I had to fill both shoes and didn't have much help. My kids don't watch these. I mean, well, one of them might. So, if that's true, then I'm sorry. I don't mean to put your mommy down. I don't. I mean, your mommy, in her own way, I suppose, you know, she tried, but yeah, it's another story. I shouldn't be talking about that kind of level of personal here, but I guess I get in some trouble. But you know, it was a lesson for me. I learned a lot from it, and it made me a lot stronger. It made me a better man. It did. So I'm blessed by everything that happened. That's what I can say. That's positive, yo. I twisted that thing right around, and I was doing it very honestly and truthfully. So you can make any shitty thing that happens to you, basically, or a very difficult time of your life, and make it possible. All right, the animal that wants to come forward is the bison. It's a mighty sign for the Native American tribes in many cases. What it means is it's a sacred buffalo. In fact, they have their end day prophecy dealing with an actual buffalo. And there's the heifer that has to be killed, you know, in the altar in Jerusalem as well, you know, that the Jews talk about, you know, and of course there's a heifer involved in terms of Hinduism. I think Krishna himself rode upon a cow or a bull. Anyway, I'm just saying there's comparisons in every religious belief system. It says, keep me warm through the storms of life, fill my life with goodness, teach me the way of gratitude and prayer. I say, yes indeed, as I moan it be, so let it be for you and me. Yes, I'm like the geriatric friggin' Eminem sometimes. You know, I will always be young though, because it's in my heart. All right, so let's go and get a hidden oracle, hidden truth, please. Get a couple of hidden truths for the collective. What does the collective need to hear, Lord, since they've listened to me banter on like a madman? Some of them might even think that I am, but I'm not. I see very clearly, I believe, and I'm open for truth. I follow the truth wherever it leads me. And to do that, you have to get rid of all your pre-misconceptions about what that truth might be. And that's not an easy thing to do because we're not taught that in school. We're taught to regurgitate information, or what they call facts. in order to get the passing grade and then move to the next waypoint. When you think about that, it's an ultimate sense of control, isn't it? They don't teach you how to think and to come to your own conclusions about anything, how to trust your instincts and your ability to use scientific reasoning to discover things, and to think and to realize there is more than just book facts that we have to consider. Your observations, your feelings, what does your gut instinct tell you about something? Those things matter. And to hear anybody say that this can only be this, that, or the other thing, no. And it's not for you to say or to limit anything. There's unlimited potential in anything, okay? And like I said, an infinite manner of simultaneously happening realities all around us. And this is what they mean by the only time that there is right now. I hope that makes sense to somebody. If you like marrying spirituality with quantum physics and all of that that's happening right now, again, this is just proof positive that the earth is evolving, and so are those who are meant to evolve and move forward with it. We're coming up with many of these new things in a spiritual sense, in a scientific sense. They're breaking away from conventionality. I think the sense of what freedom really is, things of that nature. And that's the thing that I the most choose, freedom, right? We the people, and this is we the people of the world, not just the United States. The concept of the people that came up with these things, and a lot of them were early Masons, that is true, but that was before Masonry was hijacked, I believe, by the Illuminati in the 1700s. So, and again, that's just what we can get from conventional history. There's more to the storyline than I could ever talk about in just a few minutes. And I do plan on making a series of videos to unlock all of these things, but it comes from so many different possible, tentacles of this octopus. That's what we're trying to hone in on. All we can look at is the tentacles to lead us to the octopus itself, okay? And that's what I intend on putting together, as well as staying diligent and faithful to my collective, as small as it is right now. By your subscriptions, I'm able to actually form an energetic bond with you, so I can pick up on more and more of your energies and get a more and more accurate reading for everybody that's out there. That's how it works. That's how people are able to actually read energy, individually for people when they do their, private readings, or presumably when they're doing their astrological readings. But I made observations about that. I've seen thousands of readings over my lifetime. So, and that's the fact. I have. It's not an exaggeration at all. And it's like me, watching them. I can learn, I can view, and I get a very quick feeling of who is legitimate and who is, well, maybe not legitimate. I'll just leave it at that. Try to be kind. Developing this is something that is done with practice, but you have to get beyond reading just the symbols on the cards, or the runes themselves. And I still fluctuate, and that's basically fluctuating from your critical mind, the one that's analytical and everything else, to your spiritual mind, okay? And a lot of times they are simply almost counteropposed at first. Things that happen in the spirit sometimes are very obviously different than those things that we see in the 3D. So you have to be able to marry all of that together to come to a true, or what you might consider a truly unbiased and as close to the truth that you can, based on the information that was available on those concepts. I hope this makes sense. Probably not. I'll probably listen to this later and say, damn, I should shut up when I'm high. All right, it says, I am grateful for the spiritual lesson. Well, I'm grateful for the spiritual lessons I get by working with other people. You and your comments out there. And sometimes the things that come out of my mouth that surprise me at times, or things that I read, even in sources I never expected to see it. You know, sometimes I can watch a conventional Hollywood movie and it can even be less than one filled with nobility, so to speak, and I can still get something, one line or one scene. It may not even be intentional on their side, but it sheds some light for me, you know. So you can learn anywhere. Always be open to the idea of learning. All right, the next one, please. Oh, let me shuffle up a little bit more. Can I get another hidden truth, please? That's very positive. So somebody out there is actually being authentic, sharing their level of spirituality, and you've helped somebody, and that's good. Good for you. That's what we're here to do in our own ways. It's not going to look the same for any two of us. Okay? I love you unconditionally. That's what the true love is. That's the true love that we want to find. But that doesn't imply that, you know, you could have been in love, or we use the word so loosely today. And in most other languages other than English, you'll have multiple words for the word love. And it's very specific of what type of love we're talking about, whether it's a sexual love, a material love, a filial or a love of family or individual. What we want is a balanced one that entails all of those things when we're talking about our spouse, for example. Something that is without certain elements of that and filled even more with other things, for example, to bring up that balance in terms of our relationships with our siblings, our families, things like that. Again, I hope this is making sense. It sounds so clear, it makes sense to me, but anyways, those are very good cards, not negative at all. So, blessing, in fact. Thank you, Lord. And if we can get something on the love front, the love boat. I used to watch that corny ass show. The plane. What's that little guy's name? I know he just died a few years back. Oh, I forget, man. Anyway, it wasn't one of my favorite shows or anything like that, but it was one of those shows that was pretty popular for a short time back in the day. Alright, now for love, what we have is Girl with the Snake. That's not so good. Doesn't sound good. It says empath and narcissist paradigm. Let me tell you something, people. For those of you out there who are on your spiritual journey and you are empathic or filled with love, put yourself in other people's shoes, always willing to give them, the benefit of the doubt at first, then you will have these vampires, these narcissists that are looking for you. They are the parasites that I'm talking about. Or let me say this, they are filled with that parasite that feeds off of you. So be aware of that, okay? We've been warned about this kind of person is coming. And we know that we're at an end of a cycle, so the test is coming. So put up your boundaries, stick to them. Don't let them fool you, okay? One more in love, please. One more in love. We have to be wise. We have to learn in this journey. And it's not easy lessons. But even those of us who love, to give love and so on, we have lines that we have to put in the sand. And there are people that try to find every way imaginable for us to lower our guard so they can get in there and siphon our energy. Next one for love, please. The Hammer. I've had this once, maybe once, twice, I don't know. But sabotage, rebuilding, interrogation, repetitiveness, persistence, and somebody saying they're working on it. Alright, so that's going to be different for each and every one of you out there, but again, I think that this is pretty fair to say that we get both sides and the middle of this particular issue daily. And we know there's awesomeness waiting for us. It's coming for us if we just hold out and we graduate this cycle. Abundance, love, success, everything a person could actually want in the best case scenario in this life awaits. But we have to overcome the wiles of the devil, and that's basically what this story is all about. It unfolds differently for all of us, but we all go through it, okay? You get to various levels with various obstacles that you have to overcome, just like a video game. In this case, it looks like the narcissist is hiding within a person, or the devil is hiding within a person. All right, with that being said, you guys, I wish you the utmost, the greatest, best possible, if you will, future, or I should say now, whenever it is that you see this. And I do appreciate you considering subscribing and for at least listening in. If you made it this far, then I owe you a debt of gratitude. And I thank you. And I mean that sincerely. Okay? You sacrificed 55 minutes of your time to be here and listen to me. So thank you. And I promise you that Spirit does work through me. Okay? And sometimes He does it in ways I don't even understand, but I know it's true. So I wish you all victory as always, and I will see you in Valhalla. Love you.